So today we're hosting today's session, Finding the Right Topics around solar energy and water power, specifically for the current release of the SBIR and STTR topics. There has been a delay in the FOA, but Frank or Sonia, I don't know if you've looked at it yet this morning. I haven't had a chance to see if the FOA has been released yet. But as far as we knew yesterday, it still had not been. So we're going to keep taking a look at that and keep everybody updated. You can go on to the next slide, Sonia. So we'll go over today's, we have today's topics to go over, but I just want to share a little bit with you about, why we put these sessions on. We are hosted in partnership with the U.S. Department of Energy, as well as SBIR, STTR, America's Seed Fund, and they contract with us and other power connectors to make these educational workshops possible. Yep, thank you, Sonia, for letting me know that the FOA is still delayed, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later in how you keep up to date with those delays and dates and changes, amendments, and so forth. Next slide. So just a little bit about the University of Arizona Center for Innovation. We are a nonprofit incubator located in Tucson, Arizona. And we serve and support science and technologies, scalable startups. And we've been working as well with the U.S. Department of Energy for the last few years in supporting solar technologies and water power technologies in their funding opportunities and early stages through several different opportunities. SBIR support, the American-made challenges such as the Solar Prize and other activities. Also, UACI, we're home to the Solar Zone, which is a partnership with Tucson Electric Power. That's on the next slide, Sonia. And we are one of the largest testing and demonstration sites for solar in the U.S. So it's a great opportunity to showcase some of the solar technology as it advances and work with others that have done the same. Next slide. And so we are part of the American-made network, which is a group of power connectors, incubators, accelerators, other organizations that are all working the same goal to support clean tech, innovation, entrepreneurs. This is just kind of a map to show you a little bit about where these power connectors are located throughout the U.S. And we all come with a different skill set that complement different funding opportunities, different challenges and prizes. And it's a great group to work with and many resources to offer entrepreneurs and innovators. And for this particular opportunity, if you want to go to the next slide, Sonia, we are working with some fellow power connectors, ADL Ventures, Open Seas, Entrepreneur Futures Network, and the Clean Energy Business Network. And throughout this SBIR process, we will be providing jointly and also on our own different educational opportunities, office hours, and just different mentorships. So these are some contact information of the others, power connectors, and how you can connect with them and hear more about what they're offering. And we'll also be on different workshops and keeping that information. So keep an eye out for any of the newsletters or information I send out and links to their events as well. And then today, as part of this session, ADL Ventures joined us, and we'll get to hear from Frank Yang, who's a partner with ADL Ventures later on in the session. But before we get to that, I'd love to turn it over to Sonia Von Hout, who is a subject matter expert with the University of Arizona Center for Innovation. She is a great asset to us and works with all the companies we support, specifically in federal funding, SBIR guru. She's just a great overall person to talk to when you're looking for support on the funding opportunity. So over to you, Sonia.
Thank you so much, Amanda. So you already went through my credentials, so I'm not going to spend time on that. So today, what we want to do is just a very, very brief overview of the SBIR STTR program focused on the DOE. We did a thorough review a few days ago, and you could have the slides in the webinar through the UACI site. But we're going to focus on what are the topic areas that are on the current solicitation. As Amanda noted, the FOA is still delayed. So I am going to be cruising based on the topics that are listed, which are out, and a little bit of process and timeline based on what previous FOAs looked like. And so just keep in mind, this is going to be mostly for just giving you an overview of what really looks like, but there's possibly some changes once the FOA comes out. So just make sure you read the full solicitation when it does. And then time permitted, then we could do an example or do some search and fact finding on the internet. So very briefly, the SBIR, or started in 1982. It has offered billions of dollars. It was started so that you could fund early stage high risk innovation ideas with the goal to stimulate the economy, bring the ideas to the federal government for small business, meaning less than 500 employees, and then to also encourage the participation of the socially and economically disadvantaged groups and increase private sector involvement in innovation. The basics, like I mentioned, the SBIR, 1982, and there's 11 agencies participating in that. And then we've got the STTR that encourages technology transition that comes from non-for-profit organizations, and you need to collaborate with a research institution. There's 6 agencies. I have to change this slide. The USDA now offers STTR. And you could also partner with the federally funded research development centers. So there's 2 types of awards, grants and contracts. The grants, they're much more flexible instrument. It's with the goal to serve a public purpose. And the principal investigator, the small business, has the freedom to define the scope of the work in most cases, and who's the customer and what the innovation is. Contracts are binding agreement, so generally has very little flexibility. So these are the different agencies and which ones offer contracts and grants. You can see that the Human Health Services, or NIH, offers both, as does the Department of Education. The DOE offers grants. And then this is just estimated budgets that I got a couple of years ago from one of the SBIR events, but the distribution in terms of percentage is still about the same. So you would see that the Department of Energy still is on the top 3, and the Department of Defense is the one that gives the most awards. And we might look at this later today, but keep in mind, if you have a dual use innovation, you might be able to apply for more than one agency. You just have to make sure that you disclose that to the agencies you're submitting proposals after you submitted something essentially the same or that overlaps. But it could be part of your strategy to fund your innovations. So as mentioned, the FOA is delayed. We still don't know when it's going to come out. FOA is funding opportunity announcement, but it might impact when these deadlines are going to be. However, try to stick to these dates just in case. So the next thing that's going to be due is you're going to be providing a letter of intent, and we have a webinar for that. I'm going to close my lines a little bit just to remove some of the glare. Okay, am I still good? Okay. This is just a typical award timeline. We went through that last time. We're on this part. Theoretically, the FOA should have come out. It hasn't, so this is going to slip to the right. But you have your topics announced. You should hopefully all have reviewed them. If not, we can touch a little bit on it today. The announcement comes in, you submit your applications. There's about 2.5, 3 month time to review. If they like what you propose, they'll come back and negotiate with you. That could be a couple weeks to a couple months of negotiation, and then your phase one will last 6 to 12 months. All right, so the DOE has the mission to ensure security prosperity by addressing its energy, environmental, and nuclear challenges through transformative science and technology solutions. What I did here is I color-coded based on the goals, and we're going to be focusing on the energy ones, right? So these are the greens. And then I also put an asterisk next to the topics of the program offices that are in the, this one's not going to be on the current solicitation, but the ones that are offered in the solicitation. As a power connector, our role is to assist you with the ones with the EERE. So I highlight that here. And again, we're going to be focusing only on the solar and water topics. And those topics are going to be topics 11 through 22. I didn't put the 58 dash in front of that, but that's the way that they number them. Okay. So typically, the topics document, which you should be very familiar with describes the focused topics for that solicitation or announcement. After about a month, which is already delayed, the funding opportunity announcement comes out. During the period, you get the opportunity to reach out to the program managers. And they already did some webinars and some slides, and you should be able to access that at the DOE website. And if you still have questions after that, make sure that you reach out to the SBIR or the email address that's provided under each of the topics, and make sure that for those emails, you focus on technical questions or issues that you have with respect to that topic. If you have administrative or logistic or programmatic questions, reach out to the overall SBIR email address. Don't bog down the program managers with your admin questions. Again, you can find the webinars. This is what the solicitation looks like, the first page, and these are the different program offices. And we're going to be focused on the energy efficiency and renewable energy topics, water, and solar. So they're created by the program managers of the specific program offices, and they're going to list all the information about what they're looking for, and they also give you some references. We'll look at the structure of one particular one in a minute, but make sure that you reach out to clarify any questions you would have about a topic if after looking at the slides and the webinars you still have questions. So they're mission-focused specific topics, although, you know, these are grants, they are specific topics, and you then have the flexibility to propose how you're going to be addressing the specifics of that topic on your application. Make sure this, I highlight this, each topic has references because it will give you background information that the program officers or managers think it's important for you to know before you apply for that topic. And sometimes it gives you hints also as to the state of the art as it is right now, or a direction that they might want you to go after, or possibly even competitors. So I strongly recommend you read all your references. So I did take an old old topic as an example. It doesn't fit the solar, but what I wanted to do with this example was easy to consolidate in an image all the different sections of what a topic looks like. Okay, so this has nothing to do with what we're doing with respect to water and solar, but if I had to copy and paste one of the topics, it would not fit in one page. But you're going to see that it has a topic and they have subtopics. In this case, it has A and B. A is going to be very specific in this case, B, other. This is where also, if your innovation doesn't specifically fit into some of the top subtopics, some of the topics in itself have this other subtopic. And that's when it becomes so important to reach out to the person that's listed or to the email address, because then you can clarify if what your innovation is intended for might fit under this other. So take a look. Typically, there's more than A. There's usually A, B, C, D, and then there might be one other. So that's why I also like this one here. And here you could see all the references, but this one would be for specific to subtopic A, and they will list the references as they apply to the subtopics. So this is very important for you to not only familiarize with the structure of a topic, but also with what they're providing you as references, because those are very important. So you'll have a topic, subtopics, you're going to have a header. In the case of this one, it will have the awards and if it's fast track or not, if it applies to SBIR, STTR, both or just one. So be on the lookout for that. Okay, some topics are part of the technology transfer opportunity. I do not believe that the solar and water topics are under that, but just keep in mind that solicitations have sometimes technology transfer opportunities. So if your innovation has dual use and you'd like to apply for one of these, do know that you can. Okay, and then the funding opportunity announcement will describe more about what that means. So we're going to be focused on the EERE topics, and the focus of those topics or the big goals of the EERE as it relates to the topics listed have to do with decarbonizing the electricity sector, transportation across all modes, air, sea, rail, and road, anything that's energy intensive. We want to reduce the carbon footprint of buildings, and we want to decarbonize the agriculture sector as it relates to energy and water. So these are the specific topics for water, solar. I didn't have any wind ones. We don't do wind, but I just listed here the ones for solar and water. And in the water power technologies, there's a fast track only. And I'm just gonna, for the purposes of today, just mention what I know fast track is as it relates to the past, but the funding opportunity might change. Fast track typically will say what you're going to do for phase one feasibility and what you would do for phase two for something that you already have in place. So once the funding opportunity announcement comes out, it will be important to read how they're defining fast track for this announcement. So proposals must include milestones demonstrating progress. They have to be quantitative, meaning you have to be able to measure them. You have to have price projections and/or performance improvements. You have to have a clear innovation differentiation with existing technologies. That's why it's important for you to know what the state of the art is and how you're different from that and what is going to be your clear competitive advantage. You have to understand that. If you think you have an innovation today and you haven't done all that research, you're probably going to be not very competitive in how you respond to the application, to the topic. You've got to provide a cost analysis. And in the case of there's a justification of performance claims. So you're going to see that under these topics, there's going to be a table. So read that, because when you're putting together your proposal, you're going to be having to address how you're going to demonstrate each of these performance claims or requirements for that specific topic. And then if you're doing the fast track, you're going to have to understand and explain what you're going to do for a post-phase 2 plan. Okay. I went ahead and dissected each of these topics a little bit more, but I'm not an expert on these topics. I'm just providing you the general information that summarize what this topic's looking for. So in the case of the 58-17 or solar energy technologies, they're looking to accelerate the development and deployment of solar technology to support equitable transition to decarbonized electricity by 2035, and then the carbonized energy sector, and this should say 2050. So the research, development, demonstration, and technical assistance should be focused on these 5 areas: photovoltaics, the concentrated solar thermal power, systems integration, manufacturing and competitive, and then what they call soft costs, which have to do with affordability, reliability, and what's the domestic benefit as it relates to the electric grid. And specific to topic 17, here you have the heading, right, which we talked about before. This one, you could submit SBIRs or STTRs, and there's no fast track requirement. You can't do a fast track. And the subtopics, this one does not have an other, are very specific, as power electronic technologies, supercritical carbon dioxide, power cycles, and so on. I'm not going to read these. And if you have questions, here's a specific email address where you can send your technical or clarification questions about this topic. Number 18, this one's a water topic, and it has to do with fast track only. And if you read the topic, this is kind of a summary about it. They're looking at how to advance marine energy, next generation hydropower, and pump storage systems for flexible and reliable grid. They're looking at reducing the marine energy costs and to fully leverage hydropower. And this fast tracked or combined phase 1 and phase 2. It's either SBIR or STTR, and applications have to be related to hydropower and marine energy. And then they have the version, the details on it. You have the 3 subtopics. One of them is related to the bipartisan infrastructure law. Well, 2 of them, no, 3 of them. Gee, sorry about that. So, so all these, most likely that's probably why it's a fast track. They want to advance this and they want you to go all the way to phase 2. So they've got 3 subtopics there: hydropower, marine energy systems, and wave energy converters. And then this one's the one that's not fast track. And it has the same goals as the other one, but it has more subtopics. And I highlighted what they want specific to those goals: cross-cutting technologies as they relate to emerging sensors, sensing networks, and other monitoring technologies. But maybe they're looking also at if you have a data analytics or modeling tool, it might fit in under this topic. And pump storage hydropowers, micro hydropowers. Not sure exactly what they mean by co-development, but co-development marine energy, and then marine energy components and subcomponents. And here are the awards amounts. this is not the fast track version, and you could do SBIR or STTR. Okay, how are we doing at 9:30? Finding topics. So let's go outside the solicitation and see this as a broader picture here. Typically, the way that I would go about finding topics is mastering the art of keyword searches. So sometimes I can find things that most people just won't find, and it's how you put together your keywords, how you quote them, not quote them, if you use synonyms. So you could do it at a Google search, and typically I would just put my, solar panel, SBIR, or STTR, and then if I want to see who at the Navy, I would put Navy. So that's one way of doing it. So then I could find out if there's active or past solicitation. You could also go and look at the SBIR.gov. It will show all the past awardees as well as open solicitation, but this does not go across the board for all agencies or all different types of awards. So if you're looking for things outside of the government or federal government, you might have to do it at the Google level. And also the SBIR.gov might be a year or two behind. So, and the searches are huge, give you maybe, the last 30 years of information. So knowing what keywords and to narrow in on SBIR.gov is going to be very important. But I like to find out who and who has won, who has given awards, what they've been awarded for, just as general knowledge to understand and give me situational awareness. So I highly encourage that you do this. You could also go to the agencies themselves. You'd be surprised. A lot of them also have past awardees as well as their current solicitations. And then, so DOD, grants.gov, SAM.gov, there's a whole bunch. And then I would also make sure that if there is an open period where you can contact those program managers or technical points of contacts or point of contacts, each agency names them different. No surprise, but that's another way of finding more. What's going on? Are they the only ones? Do they know of other ones? What would be their recommendation? So there's this is all prior homework you have to do before you even write that letter of intent. Just saying. And with that, before we continue, I want to pass it along to our partner in crime in this solicitation or this power connecting opportunity, to Frank Yang, who's a partner at ADL Ventures. And I'll shut up for a few minutes.
Okay, great. Sonia and Amanda, and I know that all of you guys are probably eager to go into open discussion and ask some additional questions, but the team at UACI was gracious enough to offer ADL a little bit of time to talk about our experiences, both as power connectors as well as entrepreneurs having pursued these proposals. And so for those of you that are not familiar with my background, I was in thin film solar for 12 plus years and then founded a startup in the building insulation space. And that's how I actually got connected with ADL, is that our company entered one of the ADL Open Innovation Challenges. And Nolan, who's the founder that I've known for some time, convinced me to come on board as an entrepreneur in residence. And I'm now at 5 years and running with the company. And we've been really fortunate to work alongside UACI and some of the other power connectors to help NREL grow this FOA support. So I think I wanted to share today sort of a couple key takeaways as an applicant. So with Stion in the solar industry, we were a multiple time PV incubator recipient. That's another FOA that many of these power connectors support, and it's a little bit later stage in nature. And then at Leatris, my building installation startup, we've been an NSF SBIR recipient, as well as having 2 DOE benefit award. So the benefit is a building technologies office FOA, which again is probably a little bit later technology readiness level than this one, but still has a lot of the similar characteristics. And I'd also add that on the ADL Ventures YouTube, we've done a host of learning modules, many of which are specific to the solar industry about applying to FOAs, developing a value proposition, refining your business model. So yeah, I think the couple key things we want to hone in on in this session are A, how do you go about deciding whether to apply and how to apply, and then B, sort of what is your risk and time management strategy with regards to approaching these topics. And I think the first thing that I would share is that for all entrepreneurs, like SBIR funding is probably somewhat fundamental to any sector where venture capital investment is difficult to get, and there are a lot of capital requirements and other things that you don't have with faster growing businesses like software. So I think if you're looking at the topics and you think that they're at all relevant, like I would really do so with the bias of applying rather than not applying. Understanding that this is an organization building and it's an infrastructure building exercise for you as a company. I think as you may have seen, in some agencies, over 80% of SBIR recipients are first time government funding recipients. So if you're a first time recipient, I wouldn't be intimidated. Like most or all other companies that are applying this are probably going to be in your shoes or in similar shoes as well. And I think the reality is that many of the successful proposals that I've worked on were rejected once, or in some cases even rejected twice before they were accepted. And so I think you should go in with the expectation that okay, if we apply, we may get it, which is great. And then if we don't get it, it could do one of several things. Maybe you get it later on. Maybe the market discovery and the technical preparation that you put into that, helps you find a commercial partner or some other, funding source. So there's a lot of option value and a lot of outcomes that come with applying. So I think we're here as Power Connectors to not only encourage people to apply, but to let you know that we're here to support you throughout that process with all the guidance and mentorship that we're allowed to provide under the program rules. And so that's the number one thing that I would think about. And then the number two thing that then I would think about, it again comes down to sort of option value and risk mitigation is, hey, if we're going to apply, how do we A, identify the relevant topics, and then B, how do we develop what our strategy is going to be in terms of maybe being a prime recipient versus a sub-recipient. And like I think Sonia alluded to this, that a lot of the topics in these FOAs are developed in a hands-on way by the program manager. They're coming out of things like research roadmaps, workshops that hopefully some of you have participated in, and certainly if you've participated in the DOE or ecosystem. And I think the same would apply for other agencies you may be looking at. If you've participated in that ecosystem and you have a pretty good sense of what the research needs are, like I think that helps you filter, hey, is this topic one that was written with potentially technologies like ours in mind as part of the possible universe, or is what we're doing actually a little bit more out of scope because it hasn't been of programmatic interest to the agency on sort of a historical basis. And then as you think through that, then you also have to think through each FOA has different levels of generality versus specificity. So one thing that we really like about the recent solar SBIR FOAs is that there is a general topic area for enhancing the affordability and reliability of solar, which, as I saw on Sonia's slide, is again in this year's FOA, and that tends to be a catch-all topic, right? And so it's a little bit intimidating because I think anybody with a good idea could technically fall under that bucket, but I think it's really meant in a way to be broad and inclusive. And again, I would think about this from a standpoint of building a business, not just, hey, I've got to get through 20 or 30 hours of work to submit a proposal. I think a lot of this is work that you would normally do in building out and planning your company, anyways. And if you started developing your technology, some of it may be data and other information that you have already. So I think that's one thing to think about. Hey, if there's a specific topic that fits, that's a no-brainer. And then I think in the case of the solar FOA, where we've supported a lot of companies over not just last year, but the last few years, like, yeah, I would say that we've advised a fair number of companies that have gone in under that general topic area. So I wouldn't write it off, just because there's not a specific topic area in the solar FOA. And then I think the second thing, which comes down to sort of, again, proposal strategy and risk management a little bit, is like, A, are you going to go in as a prime applicant, and then B, are you going to have one application as a prime, or potentially multiple applications, including some applications maybe where you're a partner or a sub recipient. And I think there's two things to remember here, is that technically speaking, in most FOAs, I think including this one, there's actually no limitation on the number of proposals you can submit, as long as they're distinct proposals. But the reality is, if you're a small business seeking SBIR funding, there's probably a limited number of like relevant topic areas that you could actually lead a proposal in, because I think that if you are trying to do more than one proposal, like the ability and willingness and financial capability of the entity to really execute more than one, like I would guess is going to be questioned in the review process, even though the power connectors here aren't directly involved in the reviews. We've certainly all, I think, been involved in the review process for other proposals, and bandwidth and budget limitations, definitely become a concern. So I think my personal suggestion would lean more toward, hey, if you're going to apply as a prime, only be the prime on one. And then I think where it gets a little bit trickier is for those of you that may be considering going in on one of these as a teaming partner. I think one of the realities of being a subrecipient and being a teaming partner is that the scope of your subcontract, even if the prime award is awarded, is actually subject to change at any time, somewhat arbitrarily at the discretion of the prime. So even though you maybe promise a certain amount of money now, it's fairly common for scopes to get modified as awards get given out, and for subs to be added and taken off. So it's certainly not as firm a commitment. It also is like a little bit less work. And so I think for those of you that are maybe thinking about going into one of these as a subrecipient, I think going in as a subrecipient is a strategy that probably lends itself better to being on multiple applications. And we know for the solar energy technologies office FOA for thin film that we supported recently, there's several companies we supported that actually pursued that strategy and have multiple submissions. So again, that adds a little bit of option value, without doing a ton of work. And then lastly, if you're a prime on a proposal and then a sub on one or more proposals, I think the question always comes up of cannibalization. So again, are you actually in some sense competing against yourself? And I think that really comes down to that's a business judgment that as a company you have to make. Certainly if you've identified a specific topic and you're applying for it, and you've had past interactions with DOE or customers or investors that makes you feel pretty confident about it, then I would maybe think twice about having more than your name on more than one proposal. But I would say if you're going more in sort of the general topic area, or you're earlier in stage, like whether you like it or not, there's a little bit of an element of like throwing darts here, and like I think having more shots on goal is not a bad thing. And so I think there's a lot of nuance, and like these certainly represent the opinions of ADL as power connectors, and is not formal advice or guidance from DOE or any other agency. It's really just a lot of background built on experience and not only successes, but I think more importantly, it's really the proposals you fail on where I think you learn the most. And I think for a lot of you, you're probably going to fail once or twice before you get not only your phase one, but also the phase two, which we're going to talk about in a subsequent session. So hopefully that gives sort of the group a great starting point in terms of like how to think about topic selection, how to think about proposal strategy, and how to think about pursuing these. And yeah, we'll certainly look forward to answering any questions here offline about that.
Frank, I had one question. I thought you might be great to answer this is as we've been working on these other FOAs as well, and then we see a broad topic like, just solar software, hardware. What kind of, do you want to speak to kind of some of the trends that we're seeing that DOE has shown interest in, like, unique manufacturing partnerships, things like that?
Yeah, so obviously, as I mentioned, the SBIR program at its core is often to address problem statements that may be an earlier technology readiness level or a lower state of maturity than the incubator and some of the other FOAs. But often the incubator and some of the other FOAs are probably, as you said, Amanda, instructive of what some of the agency needs or the market needs might be. And so I think certainly post IRA, having come out of the manufacturing space, we're seeing a resurgence in interest in emerging manufacturing technologies, right? So on the cell and module side, the CETO thin film FOA was probably one of the first ones that we've seen in a long time that's been as thin film specific, as it was. And so I think that for those that are developing either technologies that are thin film technologies, or they may be process technologies or other enabling technologies that are relevant for thin film. I think sort of the long-term promise of thin film is an area that continues to see a lot of interest in the market. Certainly, perovskites, which is an area where ADL is running a DOE prize, and a lot of even the incumbent manufacturers have research efforts, has been an area that's garnered a lot of attention. But I think there are also other areas within thin film, whether they be different tandem cells, flexible cells, SIGs and other alternative technologies. And as I mentioned, different equipment and process technology. So that's clearly an area. And then the other area I think to think about is the other sort of more mature FOA that we supported recently was around what's called dual use PV. And I think if you think about sort of the US PV market today being heavily anchored in utility scale and being heavily anchored around sort of third party project finance, that's a little bit more commoditized in nature. I think the small business angle has to be around something that's less commoditized, right? Because it's a small business, whether you're a manufacturer, a balance of system provider, a project developer, you're not going to get a foothold easily in that sort of core utility scale market. So whether it's agricultural PV, floating PV, building integrated, PV, those are again areas that already have been in later stage FOAs, and I think that have commonality with the SBIR, and so I think those are certainly two areas of PV that are continuing to generate attention. And I think within dual use, PV, specifically anything that's sort of has, in my opinion, and I guess a convergence or an integration angle with the energy transition, I think is something that here at ADL we're very bullish and very keen on. So for example, in some of the community solar surprises we've supported, we've seen residential community solar integrated with EV charging. I think community solar projects that may sell to a portfolio of off-takers or may utilize some type of novel deployment model or technology, that's another one. I think things that have capabilities to interact with the grid as an example. So there's an endless list of those things, but I think a lot of them, I would say, generally speaking, revolve around non-commodity, non-crystalline silicon approaches to PV, and just finding novel solutions to problem statements. And so hopefully that's general enough for the audience to appreciate as a whole, and maybe give some of you specific ideas. And like I said, we'd be happy to follow up offline with anybody who's thinking hard about a topic but feels stuck.
Thanks, Frank. That's helpful, and yeah, I appreciate your insights on both of those and what we've been seeing a lot of. So thank you so much. And if anyone doesn't have Frank's contact information or ADL Ventures and would like it, just reach out to me or put it in the chat.
Drop it in Slack here.
Yeah.
Zoom.
Yes. Yep. And so I'm going to turn it back over to Sonia to kind of wrap us up, go over a couple more slides, and then we will open up for some questions. And as we do that, if there's a question that's burning in your mind that you want to get up there, feel free to drop it in the chat and be prepared to address it as soon as Sonia wraps up.
Okay, thank you, Frank. That was really, really good. Very good insights and recommendations. So moving on, we talked a little bit about all the places that you could search. We touched on SBIR.gov, but here are some of the links where you could search for prior awards and current solicitations. SBIR is going to be pretty much very open-ended across the multiple agencies, but more specifically, here's your DOE link. You've got the Department of Defense link, NSF. I like, when we talked, and Frank also touched on this, need to start looking in case you don't win, and understanding your roadmap. Diversify also in where you're looking for funds. And so understanding who's funding what, see if there's potential for you to apply in different places. I like NSF a lot because it allows you to also have diversification, and it has open topics. And so you will apply more specifically to the topics with the DOE, but you could look at possibly going into their energy topics, and there could be application there too. Let's see. And in summary, so we touched on the SBIR program. We touched on the DOE topics that are related to what the power connectors are supplying assistance for, and some basic searching topics and solicitations. You've got to be prepared to spend 100 to 200 hours on your proposal. So like what Frank was talking about, you've got to be strategic and decide, am I going to be submitting one application or multiple applications? Am I going to be a prime or a sub? So those are the kind of decisions you're going to have to make, and based on your resources and qualifications, expertise, decide what you're going to do. Because unless you're a sub and they ask you just to provide a couple of paragraphs plus your bios, you're going to be looking at spending a lot of time on each of these applications. And make sure you register early. We talked a lot about the required solicitation, specifically with the sam.gov on the previous webinar. So go back and see if you didn't attend it, do attend it, because there's so much to learn on that. And then please read the solicitation. We find that so many times we keep being asked things that are very explicit on the solicitation. Read the solicitation, and then we could do deep dives and help you with more detailed information, but high level information that you could have found out by reading it yourself. It's much more beneficial for you and for us if you're prepared when you come to office hours. Again, attend the DOE's webinars, and as well as ours, and communicate as soon as possible with those program managers so that you know if there's a good fit for your topics. And we're going to be talking about how to write your proposals, how to write to evaluation criteria. I believe, Amanda, we're going to have more on IP rights and legal process, but there's also going to be webinars on commercialization. And now all that new topic about diversity, equity, and inclusion, because what does DOE call it? It starts with a P.
Well,
and again,
they've been looking at building community benefits plan. So if we'll do a session more about kind of what that looks like, and how do you incorporate DEIA into your proposals, as well as thinking larger as a community benefits plan. And we do have the legal process and data rights. We did a session last year that we recorded, and so I'll be sharing that out as well. Okay, and then next Tuesday, we're going to host a session on the LOI. We had hoped to review the FOA during that time, but if it's still delayed, we'll just focus solely on preparing an LOI.
There's
a link for that in the chat.
Yeah, and I don't remember, I'd have to go back. It's not since the FOA is not out yet, I don't remember what the initials were, but I attended a webinar yesterday that was just talking a little bit about the new stuff with the DOE, and they touched on it. So it's going to be a requirement. You'll see it on the FOA. You're not going to be able to submit a proposal without discussing and addressing what's your plan for all this community benefits. It's the trend. It's going to come across on all your solicitations and applications. So be prepared and attend those webinars.